Thanks, Chair, and thanks to the witnesses for coming in. How many water bodies is there in Ireland?
There are 4,900 approximately of all types. That would include rivers, lakes, estuaries, coastal waters and groundwater bodies.
So agriculture is responsible for 1,000 and what you've stated earlier, and then there's 200 more that is from sewerage. What's the other 3,700? What's the story with them?
There's a mix, so they're not all impacted. About half of our rivers and lakes are impacted, but not all rivers and lakes are impacted by any stretch. Generally, we see different issues in different parts of the country. The south and southeast have been mentioned already, and that's a very discrete problem. But there are problems from all sectors across all different parts of the country.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to get the figure. If there's 4,900 and we have 2,450 and 1,000, and that's 3,450, 3,650, there's 4,900. What's the story with the others? That's what I'm trying to establish.
So about, if we look at the 4,900 altogether, about a third of them altogether of all water body types are in difficulty.
A third
altogether are in difficulty, yeah, across all water body types.
So is 2/3 in good condition?
That's correct.
2/3 is in good condition, right? That's grand. If you were to push it into province, which province has the best water quality?
There's a mix. It depends on the issue that you're looking at. So for nitrogen, we have a concentration.
Would you say nitrogen or phosphorus?
So for nitrogen, the difficulties are in the south and southeast. For phosphorus, the difficulties are nationwide, depending on the soil type. For pesticides, the issues are nationwide, mainly a concentration, though, I would say, in the western seaboard. And for drainage and poor habitat quality, again, there'd be a mix, but more likely in the western counties.
Right. When you're examining a river or a lake, and there's, say, a lot of tributaries to it, but that you wouldn't be going to, can you distinguish between basically human sewerage and cattle waste?
So can I just, first of all, just set out the EPA's water quality monitoring programme and the requirements that we have to meet under the Water Framework Directive. We've been doing this, we've been the competent authority under the Water Framework Directive for 20 years and are reviewed by the Commission on a fairly regular basis to ensure that our monitoring network is representative, that we are measuring in the right places, that we are giving a representative picture of what's happening in the country. So, and that has been found to meet the requirements of the Water Framework Directive. In fact, the density of our monitoring network is the second highest across the EU. So we're confident that what we see is representative of what's happening in the country as a whole, that we're able to see where things are deteriorating and where things are improving. Jenny, do you want to pick up then?
Yeah, so the question there was on the...
If you go to we'll say at a bridge at a river, I often saw the EPA vehicles there sampling. When you're sampling, say if there's pollution or the different things that you're looking for, say if can you distinguish between human and an animal in the different stuff that's in a river, in the line of sewerage or pollutants in a river, to put it simple? Can you distinguish between it in phosphorus or whatever, all the different things you're looking for?
So there are clues in the monitoring data. You've put your finger on it. There are different signatures of different activities, and we have a fairly comprehensive assessment to determine what the significant pressures are. We use over 140 different data sets and models and tools, and ultimately the monitoring data and the different signatures of the different pollutants in that give us the clues that we need to determine the significant pressures.
Yeah, what I'm just trying to establish is there's a lot of towns that I know myself, and I know in fairness to you have been looking to get them got sewage treatment plants. What I'm saying is if there was farmers farming down along that river and there was a town as well where sewerage was coming out, is it possible to distinguish when you take all your samples of whether it's from animal or from people that's causing the problem? That's all I'm trying to establish.
When we look at the monitoring from the country as a whole, we're able to distinguish where the main pressures are coming from, be it agriculture, be it inadequately treated wastewater. And the monitoring network has been reviewed by the European Commission, has been found to meet the requirements of the Water Framework Directive, including that it is representative, and has been found to be able to meet those requirements.
Yeah, I'm not disputing anything at all. I'm just don't. What I'm trying to explain to you is I'm not querying what the European Commission or what they're passing or not passing. All I'm asking is an ordinary person asking a question that if there's a town or say a small town that hasn't a sewage treatment plant, that everything is going down to the river, down the road, and that there's farmers all along, and you do your test, are you able to distinguish clearly that it's from the town or it's from the farmer when you look at the different parts of the sample?
Yeah, yes, we are. And I suppose why I'm giving the background evidence to the Commission and the reviews is to show that there is oversight of our monitoring network that gives has a good look into it and ensures that we are calling it and we are able to distinguish. And that's the answer.
That's a scientific test now. You're saying it's not that you're going up and saying, oh, well, there's a town down there or there's a farmer down there. I presume it's a scientific test, is it?
We're looking at the quality of the water overall in terms of what comes out of the river and combining that, as Jenny was explaining in her previous answer, with 140 other data sets. We're modelling, bringing all of the information together to determine where the main pressures are coming from.
Okay. Are ye in favour of low emission storage, Brendan?
To be honest, we don't go into individual measures, but what we do want to see is a reduced release of nutrients from the environment into our water bodies. So low emission slurry spreading will reduce emissions into the atmosphere as well as into water quality, into our waters. So any measure that gives us improved environmental benefits, any measure that delivers for water quality and for air quality and for greenhouse gas emissions, those co-benefits, we see those as win-wins for the environment and for the measure. It gives us more bang for the buck.
And is something proposed to ye and ye go with it, or do ye make a decision, yeah, that should be done or not done?
In terms of a measure?
Yeah.
We don't get into the measures. That's really for the agricultural sector, for the agricultural experts to come up with. We're looking at the environment. We're looking at what's happening in water, in air, what's happening from a greenhouse gas perspective. We're reporting on the trends, and we're saying when the trends are deteriorating, and we're highlighting where there's improvements. It is not really for the EPA to be getting into what the measure should be to improve those trends. Our role is to provide that information to help those decision makers, to help those that are more expert than us in this area to put in place the appropriate measures.
And I presume the wing of the EPA that's here today is not that you don't handle the carbon or the sequestration or any part of that, do you?
We're from I'm the director of the Office of Evidence and Assessment, and we're talking here mainly about the water quality and Jenny.
Okay, and in the line of you talked about pesticides. There are some pesticides, is my understanding, am I correct, that if they go into water, they can travel up to 30 kilometres or something. Is that correct?
Jenny?
Yes, the pesticides that we see, particularly in some of the counties on the western seaboard, can be quite toxic, and a single drop can impact quite a long stretch of river. And we see that, the evidence for that, in the samples that we take of the insects in the river.
Would ye you know the sludge in cities? Do you keep monitoring that?
Sorry, I didn't catch the question. Could you repeat it?
The sludge that comes out of the treatment plants in the cities, do you monitor that?
Sludge that comes from the waste treatment plants.
No, we don't. We don't monitor it. That's not our role. But the sludge is managed. It's an organic fertiliser under the GAP regulation, so it's managed under that as a fertiliser. So I suppose the producer of the sludge, whether it's a treatment plant or a food and drink facility or those types of facilities that produce sludge, they need to keep records, I suppose, of what they're producing, and they need to have it spread under nutrient management plans and the appropriate records, and that's all managed under the GAP regulation. So it's the Department of Agriculture and the local authorities have the responsibility for the oversight of that.
The Department of Agriculture, you're saying, has the responsibility on that, yeah?
They receive the records in relation to the nutrient management planning, as I understand it, and then the local authorities have that inspection and enforcement role for the GAP regulations through farm inspections. So they would be, if somebody was land spreading a sludge, they would have the oversight of that.
Yeah, well, I'm just specifically just talking about the sludge out of the cities, like the amounts that come out. Would you not be aware of them in the main cities, the 3 or 4 main cities?
I think they're regulated under the Good Agricultural Practice regulations, the GAP regulations. So it's the local authorities and the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine who keep a record of what's moving and so on.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. I want to let somebody else in.